topic. Jalen Rose had something really stupid to say. Surprise, surprise. He played the race card, and I believe this is connected because a lot of this college football conversation, they attack on Nick Saban. There's a racial underpinning to it. But here's Jalen Rose at some point last week telling a group of athletes or people he's talking to that there's a salary cap in the black sports. It's so stupid. Just play the clip.
The only sports that have salary caps are black led.
Wow.
First off. So that's basketball and football. Those are the only sports with salary caps. Baseball, golf, NASCAR, tennis, you can keep naming. They do not have a salary. That's the first thing.
Holy shit.
He's correct. The second thing is they have no after high school restriction. So that's a residue of slavery. Is because we're going to get money off of you for multiple years for free.
A residue of slavery is probably Jalen Rose's IQ at this point. That's probably the residue of slavery that he's referring to here. I've known Jalen Rose since he was 19. Started covering the Fab Five at Michigan, and it's the guy smokes way too much weed, fashions himself as a rapper. I know Fat Joe was one of the guys sitting there. Did anybody else recognize anybody else that was sitting around talking to him? It just drives me crazy that sports conversation is this stupid, this racialized. The National Hockey League has the harshest salary cap in all of sports. The top players probably making $7, $8, $9 million. NFL players making 40, 50, 60 million dollars. Steve, your thoughts here on Jalen Rose?
Yeah, ironically, that's among the Mount Rushmore of dumb things he said. And they're talking about the residue of slavery.
That's very good. You don't have.
Thank you.
You should probably explain that joke, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So here's the issue. He's one of those guys. He went to a PWI, didn't he? He didn't go to an HBCU because residue of slavery. It's big on him. Or have they forgotten about that issue already? Right. So here's the other thing. When he brings up tennis and golf, guys, if I'm not mistaken, aren't those guys' winnings really their salary cap? Like if you win 10 tournaments, you're probably going to get more than a guy that finishes in 18th place. That's just the last time I checked. I don't know what to say other than salary caps are a very interesting issue, but there's ways to fudge it. And so you talk about the NBA salary cap or like Major League Baseball with the Dodgers. Do you think any of those guys is really being hindered by a salary cap per se? They're really not. Look at the Dodgers, what they're doing. And there's a lot of complaints now that the Dodgers have become the evil empire because they found a loophole to pay everybody years down the line. So that I don't know what else to really say other than that. The worst turn that Jalen Rose ever took is being the pseudo-intellect.
It's with the super dyed hair, but baseball does have some sort of salary restrictions. You pay the penalty, and teams pay the penalty like same deal in the NFL. They got the penalties, but what amazes me is like, what about all the Dominican and people of color in Major League Baseball? It's only American blacks that I guess the sports really care about, because the black people in baseball or the dark skin or the people of color in baseball, I just can't. Scap, you're a basketball guy. What are your thoughts here?
Jalen Rose is an idiot. I really resent. It's probably my whiteness, guys, coming through here, but I just really resent the implications that slavery is somehow tied into guys making multi-million dollars, generational wealth to play a game for a couple months a year for like 10 years of their life. There's just something so utterly idiotic about that take in my but again, it could just be my whiteness coming through on that. And let me just say this though about the NBA, because he comes from the NBA. He's talking primarily about the NBA, I guess. Like the NBA has a salary cap, but it is a very, very soft salary cap. There's multiple tiers and levels, salary taxing, two aprons, ways that you can penetrate the cap, break it, shatter it, destroy it. There are people in the NBA because, look, I follow the NBA closer than any sport, really the NFL and the NBA, I guess. I know practically nothing about the NHL. So let me go ahead and just say that right off the bat before I make this comment, though. I have a friend that follows the NHL very closely. He's like in his mid 40s, and he will have me understand that Connor McDavid is better than Wayne Gretzky. Okay, I just checked while we were listening to the idiocy flowing out of Jalen Rose's mouth. Connor McDavid makes $12.5 million a year right now. There are players, Jason, that you have never heard of that are making like $20+ million a year in the NBA right now. So I don't want to hear anything about this nonsense about racially motivated salary caps. Like, the NHL is principally white. The NBA, obviously, the majority is black. They are making exorbitant amounts more money than the NHL elite superstar players. So this is just a non-star. Jalen Rose, he's too stupid to even understand how stupid this comment is. Like, he's bringing up tournament-based winning individual sports like golf and tennis to try to compare it to like a salary cap driven team sport. It's just so utterly stupid. I can't really even comment on it.
There's a system in place to keep black men stupid. And Jalen Rose is just a part of that system. Because I looked at Fat Joe and whoever else is sitting around there, and how Jadakiss, yeah, how they're sitting around there and they're just blown away. Oh wow, what a powerful statement by Jalen. And it's just like he's leading them to idiocy. Rather than elevating them, he's leading them to idiocy and victimhood. The point he made about residue of slavery, wasn't he talking about high school athletes being restricted from entering the pros or whatever, or having to go to college or whatever? And this is the residue of slavery. It's like, so the NBA wants to keep out great high school players. They want Cooper Flagg to finish high school, and or black player wanting to finish high school, that's a residue of slavery. Make it make sense to me. I just can't. High schools, are they making millions of dollars by keeping those guys and exploiting them while in high school? There's such an animus, and this is how it connects to Nick Saban. There seems to be animus, or just there's a black talking class in the media that places no value on education. That the only thing that matters is money. And as long as that's the case, don't expect the criminality rate, the IQ rate, the SAT rate, the baby mama rate. None of that's going to improve, because if people aren't getting educated, they're not going to make good decisions. Steve, I'll let you quote Thomas Sowell or whatever you want to do here.
Well, I mean, again, my favorite Thomas Sowell phrase is the philosophy of grievance. This is all that is. Here, the other thing about baseball, so baseball's now really white, at least in the States. The rate of black participation in baseball has really dimmed since, I would say, the late 70s, when you had pockets in LA, Oakland, Tampa, Florida, where you had really good black ball players. A lot of guys getting drafted, Hall of Famers, All-Stars, guys that we all know. That's diminished, right? If I'm not mistaken, for years, if you went to college, let's say you got a partial scholarship. Most teams back then only had about 12.5 scholarships per Division I schools. I think there was a rule that you either had to stay in that college for 3 years, or you weren't eligible for the draft. And if you stayed at a college for 1 year, then if you wanted to go to the draft, you had to drop out of school. I remember Alex Fernandez was a very good right-hander for the University of Miami. Had a very good freshman year, but if he wanted to go to the draft, he didn't want to stay 3 years in college. So I think he went to JC, Miami-Dade JC, to be eligible to play, be drafted by the White Sox. So these restrictions in terms of age and waiting, they've also existed for other sports. This is not just the quote unquote black sports.